Hello, it is Monday, November 2nd, and you know, I don't know what I'm saying right now. It is the start of NaNoWriMo for those of you participating. I am kind of, sort of, maybe participating, not officially. I didn't sign up on the website. I am writing this month. Oh, as soon as I start. First of all, I thought I would recap from the last point where we left off. I haven't vlogged in a couple of weeks. I think the last time I vlogged was like around, it was the beginning of October, like the 8th or something like that, or the 12th. I don't know. So anyway, I finished the month of October having written a total of 13,482 words, so that officially puts me at 33,099 words. So my goal for October was to hit 35,000 words. Considering what I wanted from working on Hotel Story last month was to establish more of a writing routine and also to really get into this story and figure out like what I'm doing with it and where it's going. I think I checked all the boxes. I may not have hit my word count goal, but it wasn't like a hard and fast goal. It was more just to have me sitting down writing as much as I possibly could. After having not written for months, it was nice to like slowly get back into a story and to be really excited about it and to build that writing muscle again, as well as just like flexing my creative muscles in other ways, like, oh goodness gracious. So I guess I can update you on my writing plans for November. It's 3:30 in the afternoon. I just sat down to write, and let's see. So like I said, my word count is at about 33,000 words. One of the major things that I decided to do with my hotel story last month, really it was like a week or two ago where I decided this, was that originally the story was written from multiple perspectives in like two different timelines. And what I've decided to do is to actually split into three different timelines. So the story is being told in part one, part two, and part three, and each part is a different timeline. And there's common settings, there's common themes with each part, and they're all sort of surrounding this one major mystery just from like different perspectives. And it's really exciting for me because it's great. I'm really like figuring out how each timeline is working together. I'm thinking about how each timeline and each main perspective, like what they bring to the story that the others wouldn't be able to. And it's really cool. So I'm 33,000 words into part one, or the first timeline, and I've decided, sort of as a treat to myself, okay, if I finish writing part one, okay, which is basically like writing the entire story of what happens in this first timeline, if I finish doing that by the end of November, then I can put the story down, put Hotel Story down for a little bit, and switch back to my Storm Cloud series, which makes me really excited because for the last couple of weeks I've like been feeling Storm Cloud sort of knocking on my door, like it's like, hey Sydney, come on, work on me, like, and I've not wanted to switch stories yet because one, I'm having so much fun being with Hotel Story, and I'm trying to train myself to be good, to not chase too many rabbits at once, just to like follow this thread of Hotel Story until I reach a good stopping point. But I feel like if I keep working on Hotel Story until this whole first draft is done, it could be the beginning of next year or even like springtime by the time I'm finally finished working on this first draft at the rate that it's going. Which on one hand would be great if I didn't also have other novel projects that I was really excited about. So going back to working on this first timeline in November, like my writing goal. So my word count goal for November is to hit 50,000 words, which we'll see if that happens. I don't think I could finish this entire part one in just 50,000 words. Eventually, like I'll write it as long as it needs to be, and then eventually in revisions I'll pare it down, especially since there's two other perspectives, so it's essentially like having three different stories. And if each one is like 50,000 words, then the book ends up being 150,000 words, and that's way too many words for a book, generally speaking. So I'm gonna just write it and see how long it gets me. The word count goal is secondary to finishing the actual story in a way that works, for a first draft anyway. And then eventually, once I go to Stormcloud and come back to the story after having like a moment to step away from it, I can either jump straight into working on part two, or I can go back and do a revision of one, so that way it's a bit stronger and I have a bit more of the bones of the story built, so that way when I do jump into writing part two and then eventually part three, like all the major decisions of the story have been made, you know? So I wouldn't have to like then go back and like overhaul the story too much. So, because as I write part one, like let me know if you're keeping up with me here. As I write part one, I'm figuring out what I want to happen in parts 2 and 3. Not completely or anything, but like I'm getting ideas. I'm getting just sort of like a sense as to what could happen there. I do want to continue to pants the story, like discovery write it, but you know, my brain just can't help but plot a little bit at least, or come up with ideas, not wanting to get too ahead of ourselves. Because that's the future, my friends, and this is the present. I've just sat down to work on my story for the day. I'm going to set a timer for about 45 minutes, and that'll be my writing session for the time being, at which point I'll have to step away and cook dinner, doing stuffed bell peppers, and I'll talk to my mom on the phone while I do that. Okay, so what have I done for NaNoWriMo, or for November, since NaNoWriMo has just begun? Oh, can I just say one thing about my October writing? I've mentioned before in previous vlogs that this story, it was a challenge in the beginning to write more than, to even hit 500 words in any given writing session day. But in October, I broke my record for the most, for the most words written in a day. I wrote, or rather for this story, most words for this story. I wrote 1,785 words on Wednesday the 28th of October, which is great, okay? And I had total 6 days where I wrote over 1,000 words, including the first and last days of the month. So I'm just really proud of myself for that. It's great. Okay, and then yesterday, Sunday the 1st, I only wrote 152 words because we ended up going and like running errands and stuff and not being in the house for very much, or like even when we were in the house, like we watched Young Frankenstein, which is one of my boyfriend's favorite movies. It came out in like the 70s, and he really wanted me to watch it. And it was the day after Halloween, but I said, like, let's just extend Halloween for one more day so we can watch this movie in the spirit of Halloween. I haven't done any writing today, but hopefully that changes now. It is Friday, November 6th. It is 4:58 p.m. and I've been writing for the last 25 minutes. I set a half-hour timer because then I have to go check on the dishwasher to see if like the knives and everything that I need to cook dinner. So I just wrote 557 words, which is actually really great and kind of unexpected because the last 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday, I did not write anything because, let's see, yesterday, Thursday, I went into my office, as I do a couple of times a week, and like, understandably, when I get home from staring at a computer all day, like I stare at a computer all day at home, but like staring at a computer in my office all day, plus having to do an hour and a half of driving, really it's more than that, it's a little more than an hour and a half of driving, like back and forth for my commute. Like, you just get home at the end of the day and like you're just kind of exhausted and your mind just needs a break. On Wednesday, I ended up writing a poem, which is totally like, it was unexpected, but it was really fun. And then I went on this website called Canva, which you can just do like graphic design stuff, and it's free. And they have a lot of like templates and like cool art things that you can do. And I made like a little infographic type thing, and I put my poem on there, and I put little pictures and stuff that kind of represent elements of the poem, and I gave it a title and everything. Anyway, it was just cool. It was just like a fun little, like, silly little art project, like, you know, just to make my poem like look pretty. And I really liked the poem too. It was like different words than I normally use. Like, I use a lot of words that I don't typically use or have like never really used in writing or even in speech or anything. And so it was like, but it still felt like me. And then yesterday I learned a couple of Adele songs on the keyboard. long story short, even though I didn't write the last couple of days, I still did something creative. I just thought it was funny that as soon as I start the month, as soon as I give myself a goal of finishing part one, I, like, the next day or the next couple of days, I just lose any desire to write. Like, of course I did. You know, it's either like great timing on my part or I jinxed myself. Like, telling myself no pressure, write at your own pace, but then also giving myself a deadline. Like, it's totally potentially a feasible deadline. Like, I can do it. But also, can I? Because I don't actually know how long this part one is going to be. You know, like, thinking ahead. Like, this whole time I've been trying not to think too far ahead. But then I'm also telling myself that whatever the heck is supposed to happen through the end of this part is supposed to be finished written by the end of the month. So, like, yeah, we'll see. In other news, we still don't know who our president is. I'm wearing this Obama t-shirt from when he got elected in 2008. Greetings, it is Monday, November 9th, and let's see, my word count is 36,159 words. I'm a little bit behind where I'm supposed to be today, which is 37,500 words, but I'm not, like, worried about that. Let me tell you what I am worried about now, okay? So what's happening with Hotel Story is that I can feel over the last week or so my momentum slowing down drastically. My excitement for writing the story is waning a lot, and you know, like, that happens. You know, there's all kinds of ups and downs, ebbs and flows, roller coaster, whatever with writing. But it's just like I just made the goal with myself that I wanted to finish writing part one by the end of the month. And you know, perhaps this is a lull before the high. You know, maybe we're in the eye of the storm, you know, where it's all calm and not a whole lot is happening, but then bam, it all kicks into high gear and suddenly you can't stop writing. If only, okay, who the heck knows? But like, before I preface kind of what I'm feeling now, let me say, before, I was super excited to work on Stormcloud after this, but also super excited to keep working on Hotel Story. So because I was also excited about the current project that I'm working on, it was easy enough to kind of keep my excitement for the other story at bay. But now that I'm like, my excitement for the story I'm working on is waning, I'm like, should I just go over and start writing Stormcloud now while I have the excitement for it? Even though I look at that story, I think about that story, and I'm just like deer in the headlights, kind of like I don't really, like, I put that story down in August because I was at a point where I felt like I was maybe possibly making the wrong sorts of changes, or rather making such big changes that I needed to take more time to think about it. For me to pick it back up again, I have to really be thoughtful and I have to be very conscious of the decisions that I make with Stormcloud. And while I have been excited to do that for well over a month now, the reason that I haven't gotten to it yet was because I really wanted to focus. Focus is the right word. I really wanted to focus on Hotel Story for the purposes of establishing a writing habit and for getting out of the habit of, like, chasing too many shiny things. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have a video like 3 years ago where I talked about shiny new idea syndrome, where, like, you know, you're on one project, but then you get an idea for this project, and so you immediately switch to that project. And while that's well and good and it has its moments, right now I'm really trying to, like, strengthen my ability to focus, because I have a very short attention span with, like, almost everything. Even with writing, I'm really, like, working with myself with creative writing to try to strengthen that, and part of that is sticking with one story until at least I get to a good stopping point, as opposed to leaving in the middle of it and just doing something else. have a couple of books, or rather a couple of book related things that just arrived. One, Crazy Rich Asians. Now I listened to the audiobook of this, but it was a library book, but because I really enjoyed the book, I wanted a copy for myself, and so I found this on Book Outlet. It was really cheap. And then I have the Anne of Green Gables box set, because I just finished reading Anne of Green Gables, and this was a present from my mom last Thanksgiving, and I loved it. And I'm already almost through season 2 of the show on Netflix. And there's only 3 seasons and they canceled it. I'm like, why? So what now? So before I was talking about how I wanted to do some thinking through of a couple of plot points, like trying to answer questions that I set up way before, but wrote those scenes not knowing what the answers to those questions were. And now I'm at a point in the story where I do need to know the answers to a couple of those questions. And so I realized that one of the things, like I said, that one of my characters found a piece of paper and not to figure out like what the piece of paper meant. But when I wrote that scene, I just wanted my character to find something, like some item that could indicate more mystery and more clues, which I definitely succeeded in that. But it didn't have to be a piece of paper necessarily. I just wanted it to be something, and just in the spur of the moment when I'm writing the scene and I didn't want to like take too much time dwelling on it, I just picked a piece of paper and I put a couple other random details about what's on the piece of paper. But I had no indication of what it meant. But now I'm thinking like it doesn't have to be a piece of paper, so I might just think about something, some clue that I could have, or think about rather what I want my character to figure out where I want my character to go next, and then think about a clue that would lead him there, and then later on in revisions go back and rewrite that scene, and instead of him discovering a piece of paper he could discover this other thing. So sort of working backwards, I think that might be a good approach to it. But anyway, I'm gonna put this somewhere. I might have to go through my books again because I've already gone through them like 3 times in the last few months. In that I've gotten rid of like 100 books. And a couple years ago, before I moved up here, I think I got rid of like 100 books then. Just like 2015 when I discovered BookTube, and then 2016 when I had my publishing internship, like I acquired a lot of books, most of which I did not even read, some of which I didn't actually have any like interest or intention to read, but just I was so like caught up in this fever of books, give me more books. But then like after that finally died off, I was left with all these books that I didn't care about. And so I had this idea when we moved all the books in here, I had this idea that I want to look at my bookshelf and only see books that I am excited about and books that I am happy to have there and to look at. Like I don't want to look at my bookshelf and feel guilty for not having read these books that I don't care about. So I got rid of all the books that I was holding on for certain purposes, including 2 books where I went to the book signings and got them signed by the author. Now I'm going to drink some tea, and I probably have about 45 minutes until I need to start cooking dinner, which is just some soup with some pasta and some beans. Okay, it is the same day. It's just later in the night. I can't believe I completely forgot about all these ideas and scenes that I had that I wanted to come later on in part 1 that I just completely forgot about, that weren't even in my list of plot events to happen. And today I thought of one and it reminded me of like a few other ones, and I'm just like, how did I forget all of these? And so like working on it now a little bit more, my kind of excitement for the story is renewed. And so I talked about there being lulls before, but sometimes you just need to sit with it for a moment, let the ideas come, and then you actually get excited about it, because sometimes you can confuse a lack of excitement with a lack of ideas, and they're not necessarily the same thing. So, and also while I'm here, I might as well update you on my word count. So my word count now is 36,660, which means I've written 501 words today, so that's great. And it's covered 2 scenes, I think. And I also got ideas for like 1 or 2 more scenes that are also happening a bit later in this chapter. So that's really exciting, really promising. And so I think I'm going to stick with this story quite a bit longer before I even think of Stormcloud. I'm not even going to talk about that anymore right now. But yeah, so anyway, now I really will check in with you on Wednesday. I'm going to write for a few minutes more, and then we'll cook dinner in a few minutes. But yeah. Yay! Okay, is everybody in frame? Put you there, Patrick, and you here, Goofy, with Momo. I'll hold on to Appa. So it is Wednesday, not January, which is what I was about to say. It is Wednesday, November 11th. Happy Veterans Day. I'm off of work today, which is nice. It is 10:47 in the morning, and I've already written 1,000 words. Yay! It was a struggle sitting down because I didn't really feel like writing per se. I watched a writing video on YouTube of somebody doing like a little writing vlog, and that usually helps to get me into the mood of writing. My goal for the day, actually, I'm supposed to be at 38,500, and I'm at like 38,200 now after writing 1,000 words because I didn't write anything yesterday. But I told myself I could have a little treat if I did anything. And this is one of those Lindt chocolates. This is the Snickerdoodle. I don't like chocolate as much as I have tried to. I just can't do it. Although I did go on a chocolate tour in Belgium, which was 4 hours of just like trying all these different chocolates from different shops around Brussels. And like, why would somebody who doesn't like chocolate do that? Trust me, I would love to love chocolate. It's just the taste of it like overwhelms my mouth very quickly. So after like one piece of like milk chocolate, I'm done. And I can't even handle dark chocolate. Like, so I like white chocolate, even though some people would argue it's not really white chocolate. That was actually a year ago yesterday. I was in Belgium. Oh, man. I was looking at my pictures, and boy, won't it be great when we can actually do things? All the places that I would have traveled, that maybe many of you would have traveled if it weren't for coronavirus. But I will go back to writing today. Looking at my word count, since I'm at 38,200 words, or 38,213 words, I realized how close I am to 40,000 words, and I kind of want to just hit that today if I can. Which, if I end up hitting it, that would mean, first of all, that I would have written almost 3,000 words in one day. But I kind of think I could do it because I've already written 1,000 words and it's so early in the day. I wrote 2 poems yesterday. I'm getting into like writing poetry, mainly because I want to write songs. But I feel like I'll just write some poems until one of them seems like they could be a song. Hey, so it's like 6 p.m. Same day, and I wanted to just kind of wrap up the day. I didn't write any more words for Hotel Story, but I did have a couple of false starts on some poems/songs that I was trying to write, and I am currently writing one now. So I've done that at least, but I rode my bike, as you saw, and I played very minimal piano. And I also came up with a whole new story idea, not on purpose. I was watching Anne with an E, and you know, sometimes you just watch things or you read things or you're just living life and like bam, something hits you. And so that's what happened. And I wrote a couple of notes about that, and I was thinking about it a lot, but I ultimately didn't do a whole lot with it. I started realizing that it was, and I didn't really care about what I'm about to say, but I started realizing how it seemed a little, what's that word? Contradictory or something? To say that I didn't want to work on 2 stories at once, but then to be like trying to do Hotel Story, but then you come up with a new idea. And mind you, you can't control when these ideas hit you sometimes. But then to be like working on that and trying to flesh that out when I won't even let myself work on Stormcloud, which is at least an established story, you know what I mean? So, but I didn't really care about that when I was doing that. So I don't know what that says. But anyway, I just wanted to check in really quick. My word count is still like 38,200 something for Hotel Story, and I will continue writing that, but I'm going to try to give myself a little bit of a break. I'm doing a lot of like poetry and songwriting and stuff, and I have this whole idea. I came up with like this idea for like different prompts, and so like I'm trying to like just, you know, look at one, and like when the mood strikes me, I'll like, you know, try to write a song or a poem, or even if it's just like the first stanza or just like 2 lines, if that's all I can put together. But it's fun. It's a nice change of pace to work on something that's short, like that's really, really short, versus a novel, which is like the longest form of writing I can think of doing. But yeah, anyway, so in case this is the last part of the vlog, I don't know if I'll vlog later on this week. Yeah, so this is my November so far, the first couple of weeks in. Thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a like, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time. Toodaloo.